People at Halas that's the topic of today. Danikin and I, along with thousands, if not millions of other people, got wind of Tyler Dunn's article on his Substack page about the Caleb Williams situation here in Chicago, and it has elicited so many opinions, some defending Caleb, some attacking Caleb, some attacking Ryan Poles, and some defending Ryan Poles. So we've got a lot to unpack here. I saw Danikin, he put up on X, man, I can't wait till Wednesday's show so we can talk about that. And I go, why wait? Let's do it tonight.
Do it now.
Welcome, brother. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Good. I love that hat. I appreciate
it. Yeah, that's back in the day hat there.
That is nice.
Griswold, right? Remember that?
Exactly.
Well, he wore the blue one, though. He wore the blue one.
That's right. That's right. The orange is the color. I use it orange often for my graphics and stuff because when I started playing Madden football, like when the game was almost just at the time when they allowed you to change the uniforms, I would have the Bears in all orange or the orange shirts before they did that real because it just pops, man. It just sends a message. Yep. Welcome, Skeletor. Welcome, Zach. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to be peeking at your comments here, but I also want to pay attention to what Danikin is saying. And so I'm going to start with you, Danikin. You put up a post saying, I've studied this thing for hours, the Tyler Dunn report, and it's got me thinking. What does it have you thinking?
Man, it's got me thinking a lot of different things, right? So I'm gonna be honest. Some of the stuff that was brought out in that article, some of it is on point. Some of it is embellished. Some of it is, in my opinion. I'm not gonna say whatever Tyler Dunn may have gotten wind of. Hey, that's on him. That's his sources and things like that. So I'm not gonna knock him in that regard. But at the same time, I believe there was a little bit of bias in this situation. But I just want to touch on what we've seen from Caleb, right? This is going way back, man. Years ago. Back in college, Caleb has never been the type of guy who was, study habits are there, preparation, so on and so forth. He hasn't had to do that, right? And I've said this time and time again on Three Kings of the Midway podcast, that when you're that talented, when you're that good, the talent shows up on the football field in high school and in college. And it's not much you have to do. Now, there was a report earlier this year where, he didn't know how to study film and so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. It was no surprise to me. I knew that already. You know what I mean? Because he didn't have to. His talent, his arm, and his legs were so good that he outshined everybody in high school and in college. So he didn't have to put in that effort. Now, when he gets to the pros, the regime before what we have now with Ben Johnson, they were not only bad, but there was a dereliction of duty. Let's put it that way. There's a dereliction of duty when it comes to what they should have been doing to not only progress Caleb and develop him, but the entire team. Everybody suffered at the hands of what we were dealing with the coaching staff, from coaches being fired, being walked out of the building for unknown, strange reasons. I mean, we've seen that stuff happen, right? We've seen Shane Waldron fired. We've seen them going through, playing musical chairs. I like to say that about the offensive line, but we did that with the coaching staff, with the offensive coordinator position, right? You get Thomas Brown. He's thrust into that situation as a offensive offensive coordinator, and then the head coach gets fired. He's thrust into head coaching. So, is anything surprising when it comes to that? To me, no. I don't see it being that surprising. But Bears fans, knee-jerk reactions. Everybody has something to say, so on and so forth, and that's fine. You know what I mean? We understand how Bears fandom is and how invested they are in this team, right? Mm-hmm. Same as you and I. We are both invested as well. Big time. So you have that part of it. And then you have a whole another aspect of it where there's bias that's brought into this conversation, into this report, you might say. In my opinion, once again, it's not everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, let's address the elephant in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Caleb is a little eccentric, right? In many different ways. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Painting up fingernails, different clothing options. You know what I mean? I've seen, I'll be honest with you. I remember he went to a game last year and somebody said he looked like a bisexual archaeologist as he walked into the stadium. You know what I mean? So this is the perception that he has, right? He's welcomed it. He doesn't care. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I don't care either. I don't care what your preference is or whatever the case may be. And I think there's a little bit of undertone as to who he is when it comes to that part of his life, which we don't have no business involving ourselves in, to be honest with you. That's his personal business. That's his personal life.
Right. Yeah, and let me offer a caveat here to people, and I'm going to do this very carefully because I want to respect Caleb Williams, the man, the human, and so forth. But we might be touching on things about his personal life that normally we wouldn't about anybody, and that is rumors, concerns that he might be bisexual or homosexual, and which is why some people were turned off by him, concerns about his mental well-being, and there is the accusation made by somebody in this article that Caleb has dyslexia, and not that that's a thing that, well, he can't play for our team. Not at all. It was presented in the case of, we should all know this, especially the coaches, because that way we could teach him differently, not rely so much on written words and rely more on pictures and so forth to accommodate that disability, for lack of a better word. So we are going to, I just touched on it, and so forgive us for doing so, but I think that it's important to have that option to explore those topics further if this conversation goes that way. Now, I totally understand, Danikin, where you're coming from with some of your concerns as to what you read. Let me bring it back to the beginning and talk a little bit about the author, Tyler Dunn, because I see in the chat room there are people talking about, basically trying to present him in a way where he's got an agenda, because he wrote about the Green Bay Packers for many years. I think I've followed him on Twitter, interviewed him once. I think he's a Packer fan based on what of the stuff he says, but he's also a journalist, and he tries to be fair-minded. In fact, he wrote an article when he was at Bleacher Report called "What Happened in Green Bay," and it was a very lengthy article with accusations that these two guys, Coach Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, hated each other, and that they would go back and forth, and Rodgers would say things like, "You don't know football, modern football anymore," and McCarthy would say, "You're so full of shit, blah, blah, blah." And it went on, and it became a major news story, and Tyler Dunn was the reporter behind it, and other articles that were accusatory of the Packers organization. And hey, maybe he hates the Bears. I don't know the guy well enough to make a comment like that. But I think that if we're going to take a tax on him because he covered the Green Bay Packers, I don't think that's fair to him as a journalist. So I would like to try to erase that. If anyone in the chat wants to challenge me on that, thinking about Tyler Dunn, please do so. Give me some facts as opposed to gut feelings about why you think he has an agenda here in reporting this news about Caleb. And a big part of this report is the accusations made about Ryan Poles. But we'll get to that secondly. So now let's get back to the Caleb Williams. You're frozen on my image here, Danikin. Okay. I want to make sure you're just still with me and can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you definitely.
Okay,
it should pop back up, Holy.
Yeah, it should. It should. I mean, I hope it does, because that's not a very flattering shot of you with your eyes closed. It's like you're sleeping while I'm talking, which happens a lot in my life, by the way. So anyway, I'm just trying to look at this logically and sensibly, because this is a quibble with it or not, I think this is a fair journalistic report based on reports that this guy has heard from past coaches, past scouts, other NFL league people. I think he's put all this together. Maybe he's put his own spin. Maybe he's not completely objective. Maybe he took some of the positives of Caleb and didn't report on those enough. That's all fair. But the fact is that there are a lot of former Bears scouts and assistant coaches who were really pissed off, particularly when Caleb, it was reported that nobody taught him how to look film. Those coaches were really upset that he did not take blame for some of his actions. And so I think that's a fair thing for us Bears fans who love this team that we should be aware of. If that is true, then that's an area of concern. And when you look at what Ben Johnson said, Danikin, I'd love your thoughts on this. Ben Johnson this week said, a big part of the workload that we're going to put on Caleb's shoulders in terms of the game plan is going to be based on how hard he works this week, how he practices, how he studies, and so forth. That, to me, I don't know if I've ever heard a head coach for any team in the NFL say something like that. And that, to me, lends a little bit of credence that there are concerns. The fact that Caleb could be playing video games as opposed to digging into the playbook. Tyler Dunn writes that they can know how much time you're spending on your iPad. The diagnostics will tell you, well, Caleb spent this amount of time, DJ spent this amount of time, and so forth. And that Caleb was always among the lowest when he should be far away the top. Now, that can be bullshit. That could be a disgruntled Bears assistant coach or whoever throwing that bullshit out there. But it's out there, and if we don't see results on the field in 2025, then we have to start wondering whether he's the right guy for the job.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely fair. And that's one of the things that I've talked about as well. When it comes to Caleb, he's not – he hasn't been – bought in that way, in my opinion, right? I knew that to be the case, like I said, back in USC. And see, this is the problem that I have with a lot of people, Bears fans, whoever it may be right now. At the end of the day, you crowned the kid. Everybody crowned him this person, this savior that was going to be here. We all were, we were we saw the whole Civil War that we had, last year before the draft, right? And things like that, where everybody, picking sides, this and that and the third. Some of the stuff that's being brought up about Caleb is similar to what was brought up about Justin Fields. And I'm just being honest. I'm being real. Justin Fields, it came out of nowhere. He's got epilepsy or whatever the case may be, right? That was a story that ran rampant for a little while, and they were saying, the lights of a stadium might cause him to. He's been playing under the lights the whole. That's all you do in high school.
Championship game, yeah.
every game in high school is Friday night lights, right? So it's like, come on, those were the things that were being thrown out. So to me, I see a similar situation where, we have this attack on the kid after you praised him and propped him up. And to me, I don't like that. I don't like that part of it, right? But a lot of it is true. Now, if this stuff was being said before, then I would have no issue with it. And I still don't have an issue with it because it's real concerning. Like the lack of attention to detail, the lack of study habits, his work ethic was called into question. It's a lot of different things, and those allegations are real. And what I've come to understand about football, sports in general, if you don't, if you, it's hard to turn that switch on, right? When you've gotten past so many years and gone through so many years not doing the bare minimum because you're so talented, it's hard to all of a sudden become a student of the game. It's hard to all of a sudden become driven like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady is, right? It's hard to do that. You have to develop that at an early age. And it just builds upon it, builds upon it, builds upon it. At this point in time, 23, 24 years old, whatever he is it too late to turn that switch on? That's my question, right? And we'll see. See. Does Ben get it out of him? Does Ben Johnson get it out of him? We don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to see that, you know. But at the end of the day, I don't care what happened in 2024. I don't care at this point because now we're where we are and we got to figure out a way to either get this guy where he needs to be in his development and his maturation as a quarterback, or we need to end up moving on. And that's the problem. That's the issue that we have as Bears fans right now.
I agree with everything you just said, with a tiny exception there at the end when you said, I don't care what happened in 2024. And I sincerely don't care. I want to give this team a clean slate and so forth to move forward. Right. But I do think that Ben Johnson and all of the coaches on this team, particularly those who interact with Caleb, should be fully aware of what happened last season and what happened even before, because that will help them in how they coach up this young man. There is no doubt, as you have said, this guy has phenomenal talent. I told the Willis twins after their show was done, there's no doubt in my mind that from a physical standpoint, his escapability, the magnificent throws that he makes, and so forth, he's the best quarterback in the NFL. But from the other standpoint of, like you stated, study habits and being dedicated and blah, blah, blah. Those things are the things that are in question. And so those are the things that Ben Johnson has to be aware of. How did he behave in the past? And how can we as coaches and teachers strategize to get that bad behavior out and get the good behavior in? To me, it's mandatory that they are well informed. The whole thing regarding dyslexia that Tyler Dunn alleges that people within the Bears organization and in the NFL suspected, because of some of Caleb's behavior, that he had dyslexia. The long play calls were difficult for him. They say that if they would have known that could be a problem, that should have been, they could have taught him differently, using more visual images and so forth, and on and on. To me, all of this information that's coming out for all of us that are, everyone in the chat room, those people there, I got 230 people watching across our 3 platforms here on a Friday night at 9:30 Central Time. We all care about this. We all care about the Chicago Bears. We all care about Caleb Williams. We all care about Ben Johnson. We all care. We want success. And so that's why we're invested in it, because we spend so much time thinking about it, buying all this crap that's behind me and apparel and all that stuff. We care about it. And so we want to know what's wrong and why can't we fix it? Because this has been a recurring thing. One thing that in part 2, Tyler wrote this: and time's forever a flat circle in Chicago. In rhythm and timing, the spring of 2024 mirrored 2017. That, of course, was when Pace was the general manager. 7 years prior, the Bears settled on UNC's Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes far too quickly. A thorough organizational autopsy would have advised the Bears to keep an open mind into April. Other teams considered all options at the position. Other teams, oddly enough, couldn't pierce that thick layer of insulation around Caleb Williams. I offer that to you, Danikin, to ask you, that Ryan Poles make a mistake here by not thoroughly vetting out the other quarterbacks that were available in the 2024 draft?
Yeah, I think there's of course a mistake in that regard. If you don't vet everybody, or if you don't do your due diligence as a as the GM, you are the guy. You cannot walk into something. You have to exhaust all options, right? And you have to really look at everything. We all understand that he was the consistent number one. He was the number one for 2 years, right? He had won the Heisman Trophy, this, that, and the third, and all of the good that he did in college, right? And the plays that he made. We saw it all. But at the end of the day, you still, because if you get the quarterback position wrong, on average, you set the franchise back 4 years. That's just what happens. It's the truth. So if you get it wrong, we've already set ourselves back 4 years with Mitch. We set ourselves back another 4 years with Justin. And now, if you do it again, we're talking about 12 years. We're talking about over a decade of setting ourselves back if you make that mistake again. So it's as a GM, it was his job to really vet everybody, take a look at all quarterbacks available. You had plenty of time to do it, and so on. You know what I mean? Caleb wasn't visiting a ton of people, so what was the point? You know what I mean? Visit with everybody. Visit with all the quarterbacks. I don't care if it was Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, whoever that you need to visit with. Visit with everybody. Drake May, all of these guys. Bring them in and really take a look at them. Really take a look at what was going on. McCarthy, all of these guys. But he didn't do that. And his mind was made up. It seemed like his mind was made up. And when you do that, when you make your mind up, you set yourself up for failure in many ways.
Yep,
that's the case.
100% correct. 100% correct. And that is what these when you read their quotes in this article, it does sound like they are disgruntled former employees of the Chicago Bears. Yeah. I mean, they pull no punches in being critical of Ryan Poles. And that's what the majority of part 2 of Tyler Dunn's 3-part report is about, is really attacking Ryan Poles. It goes back to the very beginning in his days at Kansas City. This is what Tyler Dunn wrote. He never proved that he was a scout, says one personnel man who has worked with Poles. The only way that you should ever possess the power to make picks is if you've shown this. He never did that. He had all the answers to the test. He could put a grade higher or lower. Frankly, my wife can do that. Then he got promoted to director. He never had his ass hanging out there. He never showed he could evaluate. Now, I read that quote to you, Danikin, and it sounds like somebody is really upset with Ryan.
Oh yeah,
Poles.
absolutely. Yeah.
He might have his own agenda, right?
So you have guys that are upset, they're disgruntled, as well they should be, right? There's a lot of Bears fans, right? And I said this before, right? I was one of the people that said, when Ryan Poles, one of the things that I didn't like what he did was that he didn't give Justin Fields the weaponry, the backing for what he was going about doing, right? So Justin Fields was at a disadvantage for his entire time in Chicago, a huge disadvantage, right? So let's just be honest. He went out there and he had the likes of Byron Pringle and he had Darnell Mooney who was coming off an ACL injury. He had Damiere Byrd. These are the wide receivers that he had. And then when Caleb came, all of a sudden we had a ton of stuff, right? Now, Ryan Poles took a swing and miss, and I think somebody put it in the chat there where Claypool was an option. He was swinging and missing at whatever and making it look like he was trying to do something, in my opinion. It's similar to what the Cubs did, right? And I don't mean to go into baseball right now, but at the trade deadline, what did the Cubs do? They went and they got Willie Castro, and they went and they got Soroka. Those didn't move the needle. They didn't move the needle for the Cubs. So if you're in that locker room, to me, in that locker room, you did more damage than good, because what you said to the locker room is, hey, let's act like we want to do something, but we really don't believe in this team going forward. We don't think y'all are World Series bound this year. Because if you did, you would have went out and you would have got a really talented arm, or you'd have got Suarez or something like that. So the same thing happened with Ryan Poles. He was swinging and missing at making it look like he wanted to do something, but the whole time he was setting up for Caleb Williams. And that's just the truth of the matter, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I fault Ryan Poles. I fault him because his mind was set up. And at the end of the day, I give him credit for that same thing because he pushed all his chips into the middle of the table on Caleb Williams. Now you have to live and die with that decision.
Right. And Dunn reports that exact thing that you just said. He fell in love with Caleb Williams because of his Mahomes-like talent. Mm-hmm. And when he got the job, despite the fact that people were saying he had very little to do with the drafting on Mahomes, it was groupthink at Kansas City that this guy was the best, most talented quarterback coming out of that draft. And frankly, those people who have been listening and watching to me for years, I just have to say real quick, I said the same thing. Matt Mahomes is the best quarterback. I would pick him over Watson, Trubisky. If Trubisky was my fourth quarterback, I would have preferred Kaiser over Trubisky, but that's another story. The thing is, back to my point, is that these scouts were clearly upset with Poles because he got this job at Chicago, claiming that he was part of the decision-making about acquiring Mahomes. And now he saw in Caleb Williams, based upon what people were saying, scouts and media people and so forth, that Williams had this same kind of Mahomes-like talent. And he wanted to bring that to Chicago and say, yep, I did it. There is a really strong accusatory allegation. It's an allegation that Poles does not study film very well. He spends, in fact, let me read this to you. He spends a lot of times with the social media guys working on the 1920 football podcast. This is from the article. Those in coaching, scouting, equipment, marketing, digital, and the support staff insist that this GM is terminally online. So first of all, let's dissect this question, this first sentence. He is saying that he has. Go ahead.
Maybe he's watching us. Maybe he's watching us now.
I hope not.
Hey, Ryan.
Can we get some tickets to the Minnesota game? But the claim here is that he has heard, he being Tyler Dunn, has heard from the coaching people, scouting, equipment, and so forth, that they are all saying Poles is online. He scrolls and scrolls to get a pulse for what narratives are building in the public sphere. Did you see this post on Twitter? He asked those close to him. Poles is infatuated, one vice president says, with what the Bears' own social media team is tweeting, not tweeting, right down to who's featured in specific pictures. He's carved out time in his schedule to pitch ideas to the team's media department. Optics reign supreme. I'm like, how about getting an idea for getting a fucking first down, this source says. So when I read that last line, it's this source that is saying the coaching, scouting, equipment, marketing, and digital, all those people are complaining that he is terminally online. It's not like he's heard it from all these people. But that is, whoever that source is, that is a fucking damning statement about our GM.
And that's a thing, right? When Before the draft of Caleb Williams, I remember talking to several people, and I talked to Ill Will, I talked to Devory Nesby. Those are my guys on Three Kings of the Midway, and we've talked ad nauseum about the Bears, and I always felt like the Bears acquiesced. They backed down to the fan base, they backed down to the media, they backed down to the narratives that get pushed. And what this article is saying is that some of that may be true. Some of that may be true, that they actually, and Ryan Poles is maybe a culprit of this. I'm not saying he is. I don't have any knowledge of it. But at the same time, this is a report that's saying that he is possibly a culprit and one spearheading this whole, where you're worried about narratives, you're worried about the outside noise. I want my GM to do his job. I want him to do his job and not worry about anybody else. Because at the end of the day, they don't pay your salary, and they're not going to get fired or promoted based off of what you're doing, right? At the end of the day, you're the only one that controls this. So I was always of the mind frame that I don't want my GM, I don't want my organization listening to the fans, because fans are short for fanatics. That's what they are, right? So
Right.
most cases, they're wrong in many of these situations. You get paid the big bucks to do what you do. So do your job. That's all I'm
Right.
saying. And I felt that was the case. I felt that he was backing down at the draft time, because I was not a person that wanted Caleb Williams to be drafted by Chicago, because I felt like Justin Fields wasn't given a fair opportunity, and you moved away from him. They gave up on him really quickly. And then when they pivoted to Caleb Williams, I said, okay, Caleb is a similar product. And a lot of people, right, that think they know football, or all 22 watchers is what we call them, right? And they have these still shots of a, oh, look, Justin was looking here and he wasn't looking there, blah, blah, blah. This guy's wide open. Well, do you know what his read progression is? Do you know where he's supposed to go with the football in this situation? Who's the decoy? Who's the original target? The 1, 2, 3. You don't know that, right? So for people to do that and push that narrative, it kind of frustrated me. And then not only that, but the same things that I saw Justin Fields doing was the same things that I saw Caleb doing. He held the ball too long. He coughed the ball up with fumbles. He ran around when he didn't need to, ran into sacks sometimes. There was a lot of different things, right? Now, I'm not saying Justin was the end-all, be-all, or this and that and the third, but at the end of the day, I saw the same similarities in their games. But I said one guy was bigger, stronger, and faster. I want that guy on my team. That's what I said.
Danikin, maybe this is why we vibe so well together, because I said a very similar thing months ago. I was concerned. Are we drafting Justin Fields and having to start over all again? We've had this guy for 3 years. We've never given him an offensive line worth a damn. We've never given him a full complement of weapons. Shouldn't we at least try to keep him? You got another number 1 draft pick. Trade it, pick up all these assets, put together a fantastic offensive line. And if Justin Fields doesn't work out for his 5th year, and you look back and you didn't draft Caleb Williams, who everybody thought was going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, and you didn't draft Jaden Daniels, but maybe you got Drake May, or maybe you got Michael Penix, or maybe you got one of these other guys late in the first round to act as your backup plan. That quarterback then comes in with an offensive line of young, tough offensive linemen who are going to get the job done, and a defensive line, because you've got all these resources that you've invested into surrounding the quarterback with all the weapons that he needs. And so you and I are on the same page on that. I want to ask you a couple of questions that people in the chat are asking. Scottish Bear wants to know, did you want the Hall and keep the Hall, Haul, and keep Justin? He's just curious.
I did. I was one of the people that said the same thing. Like I wanted the Hall. I wanted to address the offensive line. I wanted to give him the weapons that he needed, and I thought that he could be a better player than what he showed. I thought he was dynamic in many ways. We saw that with his legs. We saw some of those things. And when you're throwing to guys who are not even in the NFL right now, right? There's guys that were not in the NFL, and we can say Justin was a bust. There's plenty of people that believe that, and that's fine. And it's just a difference of opinion. I just felt like he didn't get a fair shake at the situation. Now, when we switched it over, Caleb Williams walked into this situation, and let's say, okay, this year he's got great situation, right? Last year he had those weapons as well. They drafted this guy. They drafted that. You know what I mean? They drafted Roma Dunze. They brought in Keenan Allen. Now you had a full complement of weapons at that point in time. The coaching staff was lacking though, and they hindered the situation. So I get that. I'm not knocking him for that. But at the same time, man, bro, it's just you look at this situation. And it's like, what is the deal? What is going on with Chicago Bears football, the organization? it's like we always have this situation over and over and over again. I just don't understand it. I just don't
I,
get it.
I've got an opinion on that I will share, and I want to apologize to my good friend Greg Gabriel, who worked for 10 years with the Chicago Bears. He holds the McCaskey family in high esteem. They've always treated him well, and so he in turn has treated them well. But I think that the finger points to George McCaskey, and it's if you don't know football and you are interviewing the decision makers for the football team and you don't know football, then that's a problem. And if you don't know about football and they're right in front of you are issues going on in the general manager's office and the coach's office, you're hearing stuff in the hallway and so forth, and you don't think it's a big deal when it is in fact a big deal, because we've seen the dysfunction of Matt Eberflus and the dysfunction of Matt Nagy and so forth. Those things had to be getting to George, and he should have been, tell me what the hell is going on here. 10-game losing streak, 9-game, 8. I would have started at 2-game losing streak. Yeah. He has to, as any leader at the top of any organization, he has to police what is going on. And he may not have the faculty to know the game like you and I, know, or and it should be more than you and I. He may not have that faculty, but that's his fucking job.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I get upset because, again, my fucking man cave here is thousands of dollars worth of beer stuff and more. My time, my passion, my love, all of that stuff is devoted to this team. And so what I demand in return is not the kind of shit I'm reading in an article on a Substack, by a Substack article, whether it's true or not. This franchise should be run in a much better way. It's valued at over almost $9 billion. And you're telling me that you can't get somebody in there who's asking the right questions, who's policing the situation better than ever before? Now, hopefully Ben Johnson is that guy.
Right.
I have hope. Fuck, I spent 5 hours last night writing a song about Ben Johnson. I hope. I fucking hope. But I'm a little concerned, man. I've been through it before.
Yeah. And it's legit concern, bro. It's legit concern, and everybody in Bears fan, the fan base has to be concerned with what's going on at the top all the way through, right? And you've seen a little bit of changes that's happening, right?
Yep.
And I believe that we've seen some things that changed a little bit, and things were done a little bit differently and things like that. But at the same time, I'm just sitting here and I'm sitting back and I say the same thing. What is going on? What is the malfunction in this organization? Where does it begin? Because we need to get rid of that. And we saw that we made some changes. You got Kevin Warren, you got Ben Johnson. Think about it like this, Aldo. I go back to the previous Bears coaches that have been drafted. It was always second fiddle guys. It was never the cream of the crop. It was never what we needed, right? Even when we got John Fox, he was washed up, in my opinion, a little bit past his time. You know what I mean? He was a good coach at one point, but he was past his time, and everybody knew that except the Bears somehow, right?
Exactly.
So we take a chance on him, right? And then you look at Mark Trestman. Trestman had no business, in my opinion. He had no business in the NFL coaching. He should have been in Canada, where he, live in Canada, enjoy Canada. Whatever you're doing up there is fine. But he was not a leader of men, and it was lacking in major ways, right? Then you move on to Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy was not the guy that we needed. He was he was a second tier guy. He was, we passed over Bruce Arians. We passed over other guys for Matt Nagy. You know what I mean? So on and so forth. Then you go to the next guy, and the next guy is Matt Eberflus. Is like, where did this? Why Matt Eberflus? Nobody was chasing him down. The Bears were always doing that. So when they got Ben Johnson, I sat back this offseason. I said, okay, maybe they're understanding now that you have to actually spend the money, get a right coaching staff, and all of the coaching staffs that we had before, whatever it is, it's like even Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus, they all wanted to be the man, get the credit, so on and so forth, right? When they made a change, well, it's the credit still belongs to me because I'm the one that said let's change this around. You know what I mean? Instead of just accepting, hey, as a head coach, you need to surround yourself with a bunch of guys who know what they're doing, which is what Ben Johnson has done, right? Which is why I'm so happy with what he's done, because he brought in Eric Bieniemy, he brought in Al Harris, he brought in Antoine Randall. These are guys that know the game, that have a track record when it comes to working with some of these players. They get along with the younger generation of players as well, and they garner the respect of those players. The other coaches didn't do that. None of them did. They hired yes men. They hired their friends, Matt Nagy, so on and so forth. They hired yes men. They didn't want anybody to challenge them, right? They didn't want anybody to challenge them in coaches' meetings and things like that. Matt Nagy was the end-all, be-all. That's what it was. So you see a change of it in Chicago Bears land or in the organization. And I'm hoping it's headed in the right direction. But with this report, man, it's like, here we go again. You know what I mean? The same old nonsense, the same old garbage,
Right.
And I hope this is a situation where we can kind of move on from and go in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Totally hear you. Kept an eye on a few comments in the chat, and a couple of people just said, I'm done with the negativity. I'm gone. And I wish they wouldn't feel that way, because I really do think as fans of the team, and as consumers of what they tell us and so forth, we should always be questioning them to make sure they're doing the right thing. I think that's part of being a fan. I am not going to blindly follow anyone, a politician, a football team, a family member, without, it's like Ronald Reagan said, and I think he stole the quote from somebody else, but he said, trust, but verify. And that's what I do as a fan of the Chicago Bears. I trust them. I love them. After I'm done bitching about them, I'm going to be rooting for them on Monday night. Nobody's going to, in Arlington Heights, is going to root fucking louder than me. I just love this team. It's baked into my DNA that I am always going to follow and root for this team. But at the same time, I am going to, in my opinion, hopefully fairly challenge what the fuck are they doing? And Danikin, you just listed some things that have perturbed me the same way. It's, what are we doing here in terms of the hiring of the football decision makers? It's not good, and I have to continually point it to George McCaskey. All right, let me read a couple of more. Levante, my man Levante says, can we start the fucking season already? I'm getting so damn tired of hearing foolishness from an article and Bears fandom falling for it. We can't even go into the fucking season without craziness.
That's it.
Danikin, do you think that this was foolishness in the article? What do you think?
I think a lot of what like I said, a lot of what the article was about is things that I already knew about Caleb. I already knew Caleb. I already knew he didn't pay attention to detail. I already knew he didn't know how to study film. I already knew he had a lack of work ethic, right? It wasn't the strongest work ethic. I knew all of that stuff, right? And we've been dealing with that, and it was evident last year. I'm just going to be honest. It was evident last year. A lot of people, they throw out the numbers. Oh, he threw for this many. Yeah, but there's no games that he started off hot. He came alive later on in the game. They're down 2 scores. When the other team's in prevent defense, it's pretty easy to throw in that. You know what I mean? Let's just be real. There were wild and errant passes. I mean, these are things that we saw. I wanted him to build on it. I wanted him to start off a game hot, start off a game strong, right? And like I said, the coaching staff hindered him. I'm not gonna be blind to that, right? Just the same way that the coaching staff, in my eyes, in my opinion, I should say, they also hindered Justin Fields in many ways, right? Yep. Same thing is true for Caleb. So I'm not going to beat him for that. But at the same time, I need him, and I'm glad that Ben Johnson is here and putting a whooping stick down on people and calling people to the carpet, telling in his press conferences, he tells the truth. It's not word salad. It's not nonsense that's spewed, right? Where you leave the press conference thinking, what the hell did he just say? What is he talking about, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
in this situation, he's giving legit answers. He's answering the questions to the best of his ability really well, and he's forthright with everything. So you look at that and it's like, okay, we're on the right track. We're on the right track. But is it too late for the quarterback? That's my question, because like I said, man, bro, it's hard to turn that switch on. If you've never done it, if you've never been a guy who's a study, has a great study habits, a workout guru, you know what I mean? That's one thing we can say about Justin. He put in work in the offseason. I didn't see that many of Caleb doing that. You know what I mean? I saw him doing other things, but I didn't see the work like that. So, that's my thing. It's like, hopefully he can turn that switch and maybe they can get it out of him. But at this point in time, you just hope you got to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. If everything or most of the stuff in this article about Caleb is real, then my prayer tonight, my prayer is going to, dear God, please show Caleb the way. Show him how. Go ahead.
Give him the desire. Give him the desire to work hard.
Yes. Turn his words about wanting to be great into action. Because he talks about it. I want to be the great. I want to work hard and so forth. But what these guys are saying is that was just bullshit he was feeding the media, and that he wasn't demonstrating that behavior. And DJ Moore called him out on it, and Mercedes Lewis called him out on it. They wanted Tyson Bagent to be given a chance because they figured that might be a way to rattle this super talented player for him to get his shit together, is to have him lose his job even for a week or two. Mm-hmm. Every good quarterback has had problems in the beginning of their career, and some were motivated to play better because there was somebody in the depth chart that was ready to climb up. So my prayer again is, please, dear Lord, have him, learn that my life will be better fulfilled knowing that I have really invested everything I have into being the great quarterback I desired to be, and that it was just not handed to me because things have been handed to me in the past. Something like that. I'm not. But thank you, Arlos. And somebody says, so I fooled somebody. I'll do a great job. But I can't say this enough. I really, really love this team, and I still have confidence in Caleb. And a lot of that comes from Ben Johnson. Somebody in the chat room said, BG 147, Poles has been the problem and is still here, but I think Johnson is running the show now. I don't know if I would say Poles has been the problem, but Poles has been a problem with some of his decision making. And I do hope that Johnson is influencing Ryan Poles to make better decisions. I don't want the Chicago Bears to have an organization where the head coach is going behind the GM's back, and the same thing with the GM going behind the whole thing with Ryan Pace not telling John Fox we're drafting Mitch Trubisky. I mean, what a coward.
That was terrible. Exactly.
I don't want that.
No. And that's the thing. You gotta have a unit. People have to have respect for one another, right? From top to the bottom. Same thing on the football field. You got to have respect for your brother that's out there. The same thing with the coach. And if players see that, everybody's going. Now you got people picking sides. You're gonna have some of them that love Ben Johnson. Some of them gonna, Poles drafted me. I'm on his side. You know what I mean? He drafted when you get drafted by a guy, you love him because he gave you an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? If any coach. If a coach comes to you and they put something in your hands, look at the documentary that they did on the '85 Bears. when Mike Singletary thought that Buddy Ryan hated him. Remember that? And
Yes.
and all it took was Buddy Ryan to tap him on the leg and say, "Hey, you did it. You did a good job out there." And all of a sudden their relationship was prospered. So you have a situation where you have to have guys that are in the same, mind state or mind frame. And if you got backbiting and you got guys that are beefing or don't respect one another, it's going to show in every single area of the football team.
Absolutely.
You're going to see it. You're going to see it.
Absolutely.
There was this locker room was divided. People said it last year. Even the year before, there were people that wanted Justin Fields. There were teammates that was like, whatever, whatever happens. There were people that were campaigning for him. Then you turn it to the next year. Caleb comes in. There was a report last year, and I think you mentioned it briefly, where some veterans, there were no names that were named, but there were some veterans that said Tyson Bagent should probably be in there right now because he's more focused on what's going on here.
Right.
And Caleb's not locked in like that. So, and I was thinking to myself, when that report came out last year in the middle of the season, I'm thinking to myself, how terrible is this? Tyson Bagent played how many games at that point? He had played in like 2 games or something.
Started 4 games in place of Fields in 2023.
And I'm thinking to myself, we got more trust in Tyson. There's veterans on this team. That's a major problem. If that is true, that's a major problem. Now it was kind of, they batted it down a little bit. No, that it didn't go like that. That's not what happened. False report, blah blah blah, and we moved on. But now here we come with this nonsense again, and it just brings all that back up. And it's like, maybe that was a little bit true last year. Maybe somebody did go. I don't know who it was. Maybe there was some veterans that were questioning Caleb at that point in time last year.
Yep. I'll tell you this: if somebody just put Usama saying, accusing Caleb of having dyslexia without any proof is damning and not good journalism. And I agree to a certain point, and I said this at the top of the show, is that we were going to talk about some of Caleb's personal stuff, the accusations of dyslexia and blah, blah, blah. And so I approached this delicately, but let's just say he does have a learning disability. The best way to handle that for himself and for all of us fans is to be open about it and to say, listen, I do have dyslexia and it's been a problem. And because I'm so proud of what I am capable of doing, I have hid it from many people. But I am aware that that's not helping me and that I am fully committed to overcoming this learning disability. And I'm working with the team so that they can teach me better and that I can be a better quarterback. He needs to do something like that for himself as a man. Like, I openly admit that I have had an anxiety disorder, for all my life. When I told my doctor, this is what happened to me when I was a kid. My parents were drug dealers. I lived in a gang neighborhood and blah, blah, blah. He stopped me and says, well, no wonder you got an anxiety disorder. and it's true, So I accepted that. That's part of who I am. And now I don't have to worry that if I get a little panicky in front of people, I don't have to worry because I will share openly. Listen, I have a little bit of a mental disorder and this is happening to me and I need to step away. So I hope that if he does have dyslexia, he does come forward and announce that and tell us and tell himself how he is working for that not to be an issue.
Yeah.
You're with me on that?
I'm with you on that. I think to a certain degree that you can do that. I believe that people's lives are personal and things like that. I think at the end of the day, if the Bears didn't know about this, if it's in fact true, I don't even know if it is or not, but whatever. And I don't think it's always fair to bring things up on people. If that's the case, you deal with it.
I hear you.
And if he has to deal with it, then he can deal with it, right? But the hiding of it or whatever the case may be, it is what it is. At this point in time, there's tons of things that teams can do. They got psychologists, they got, everything that you would need. There's no lack of
Yep.
resources that the Bears would have to help him in whatever he's dealing with, if he's dealing with something. Not saying that he
Exactly.
is, just saying
Yes.
if he is, right? There's no lack of resources there. I guarantee you they've put money into the kid. They want him to do well, right? So it'd be stupid, it'd be asinine on their part to not do everything to help this guy succeed, So that's where we're at, man. I mean, he has to accept responsibility for them things. I said this last year too. Caleb doesn't always accept responsibility. Caleb has bad body language sometimes. DJ Moore has bad body language sometimes. Let's be real. Ben Johnson called them both out on that. He said that he saw bad body language on the sidelines at different points in the time last year. And those are things that don't need to be happening, right?
Yeah.
So, these are things. I think Ben Johnson is detail-oriented, and he pays attention to so much of this stuff. He's the right guy for this situation. But, man, it's a lot to break down in that article, man. And it's a lot.
There is a lot. We'll be talking about this more. I haven't finished reading it. I've done with part 2. I haven't gotten to part 3 yet.
It's scathing, right. Salacious.
It is. It's salacious, scathing. Those are all good words. By the way, speaking of good, we got a special visitor, Danikin. A guy that you've known now for a short amount of time, but I think your love for him is about the same as my love for him. His name is Johnny Santucci.
Santucci, what's going on?
I couldn't let you guys tiptoe through the minefield alone.
Appreciate you. Come on in.
Yeah, what are you thinking? By the way, I have to go to the washroom real quick. So can you just talk about some gibberish stuff, and then when I get back, get into the meat of things? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the caveat, of course, is that none of this may be true, Danikin. I'll explain later when Aldo gets back why we don't always have to believe these things, and that, on the other hand, where there's smoke, there's often fire, So my main thought is that organizational dysfunction might breed further dysfunction. It attracts dysfunction. Dysfunctional personalities seem to find each other, and for many years, the Bears have been considered, a team, a dysfunctional organization with people that aren't football people.
Right.
They don't know who to hire. They don't know what to do. This is an organization that had to hire a consultant when they needed to hire, management personnel. Whether
and
GM,
was that even the right thing to do?
Or coaches? Yeah, when you're hiring consultants, for a lot of these things, you perhaps lose sight of the goal. And whether it's diabetes or dyslexia, we can't have good things, although our quarterback has to have something.
Diabetes, dyslexia. Justin Fields was what did he have?
Anxiety. Our quarterback's had anxiety. We've gone through the gauntlet with things with our quarterbacks. But I always like to ask. I always ask whenever a claim is made, whether something's true or not. 3 questions. I call them the 3 razors. And I always ask these of any claim. The first one is Hitchens razor, named after Christopher Hitchens, the writer from Vanity Fair, who said, that which is presented without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, meaning if there's no evidence, we're under no obligation to believe a claim.
Absolutely.
In this case, there's no evidence. It's all anonymously sourced. The second one is Occam's razor, named after William of Ockham, who said the most likely explanation is usually the correct explanation.
Hmm.
That's the second razor. The third razor is Santucci's razor, which is named after my dad, who would always say, whenever you don't know the reason why something happened, the answer is invariably or almost always money. In this case, it would be, why did he write the article? Well, for money. So those are my thoughts. Aldo and I have, for a long time on the show, put forth the notion, talked about the dysfunction of this organization. So, I mean, although sometimes where there's smoke, I told Danikin, there's often fire.
Yes.
I've been a long time critic of Ryan Poles. I just don't think he's that good of a GM or talent evaluator. And of course, people who are disgruntled are going to say a lot of things. And one of these anonymous sources may very well have been Shane Waldron. Hey, if you're gonna talk smack about me, I'm gonna burn some bridges and talk, throw some shade, talk some smack as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, the Bears. My main thing with this is that I told Danikin, organizational dysfunction. Dysfunction sometimes breeds dysfunction. It attracts other dysfunctional personalities.
Yes.
When you're living in an echo chamber of yes men and dysfunction, that's where you can go wrong in this business. You need strong football men. You need strong personalities. That's why we won with personalities like Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan. Bill Parcells was a strong personality. Those are the kind of things that perhaps this organization has been lacking for decades. Although, I mean, the timing is suspicious, though, of the article 3 days.
Absolutely.
Let me ask this, because usually people in the media are criticized when they release something on a Friday afternoon. It's a Friday news dump. People aren't going to read it because they're thinking about the weekend and so forth. So if it's so suspicious, then why release it on Friday? Why not yesterday? There was a football game yesterday. There was a football game tonight. Then why not release it on Wednesday? Wednesday would have been a good day to release it. Maybe it wasn't totally done. I don't know. But the fact is, let's evaluate the article for what it contains, not when it was released, and not that it was written by a guy who used to cover the Green Bay Packers, and not any of that other stuff, because everything in that article smacks of something that we felt, or something that we heard, or something that we knew. I mean, Danikin, Tooch, myself, and I bet you 90% of the people in the chat have been critical of Ryan Poles. Ryan Pace too.
Ryan Pace too, definitely. Yeah.
We hire these rookie GMs, Aldo, and let them...
so they're learning on the job. It's like, you can't ask them in the job interview. You can't ask them this question. So when you were general manager over at your last job, how did you handle this situation? You can't ask them that because they weren't general managers. So you got to just pretend. And I don't think that George McCaskey has, in all his years as chairman of the board of the Chicago Bears, I don't think he's ever learned how to interview somebody, because he's not.
Neither Michael McCaskey either.
That too.
They have to hire consultants, Aldo, to hire people, to hire the football people. But Aldo, reading between the lines, and thank goodness we have Ben Johnson and this coaching staff. But I mean, because they are, this is a great coaching staff. But asking them to, game plan every week, develop players, and beat opponents weekly, and fight organizational dysfunction, I think is a big ask.
Huge. It's a huge ask.
Asking Ben Johnson to save this organization, man, that's a lot.
Do you think? I apologize. I want to ask you both a question. When I saw Greg Braggs out at camp, he shared a lot of stuff that he has been hearing from. He's a lot closer to organizations. He gets good intel. One of the things that he shared with me that I can share with you is that Ben Johnson knew all about this stuff when he accepted the job. And in fact, the reason I am comfortable sharing this with you is because Greg tweeted something out similar to that he was aware of stuff. I'm wondering, did he really? I mean, if everything in this Tyler thing article is accurate, did he really know about polls? One of the things
Hard to believe.
one of the things in the article is that polls, as Danikin talked about earlier, he didn't completely vet the other quarterbacks. And the accusations are really damning, is that they would put up tape of Drake May and polls, because he already had his mind set on selecting the next Patrick Mahomes. Caleb Williams was unfairly scouting Drake May and getting the scouts to laugh along with an incompletion that he threw and so forth. And then one of the scouts, who is now working in Washington, and we can say he's just a disgruntled guy. This is why he's saying that. And maybe that's true. But he says, I interrupted polls and says, well, we're not being fair to the guy. Why don't we show a game where he had good stats and see what he did and so forth? And then all of a sudden the temperature changed, and he felt like polls was very defensive about that he was being questioned in front of the other scouts. Now, if all that is true, I forgot what my point is, but if all that is true, it is damning to Ryan Poles.
I thought it was supposed to be a collaboration, Aldo.
Thank you. That's what he said.
Right? Wasn't he big on collaboration polls?
Yes. Cliff, I do have more faith in the honesty of this year's coaches. There's no doubt in my mind. But I will say something. Let's keep a close eye on Ben Johnson, because the Ben Johnson that we had at his introductory press conference and conferences during OTAs, I sense a different guy than the guy having press conferences going into week one. I find him being a little bit more secretive, and maybe rightly so, because he doesn't want to give away any trade secrets. But I also think he's thinking about his response more, because he doesn't want to be critical of certain things or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But
I think you're right. I think he's feeding the line out a little bit. It's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. That's the question that we have to ask that question as well. Like, right, when a report like this comes out, how does it affect that locker room? How does it affect the management? How does it affect the coaching staff? Are they going to be more secretive? Are people going to be looking around like, maybe you talked to somebody, maybe who told this, who said that? You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that have to come out. Like I said it last year when somebody said, when it was a report that got mentioned that Caleb, some of the veterans wanted him to sit down, right, and not play. I was thinking to myself, if you're Caleb Williams, do you go into the locker room tomorrow and like, who the hell said that? Which one of you turncoats did that? Who said what? You know what I mean? So that's a question that we have to ask. How does the organization respond to this? Do they come together, or do they start looking at each other with critical eyes? That's a question.
It's a great question. And I worked in corporate media communications. And so one of the things that I learned is that when there are situations like this with the company that you're working for, you look at that as an opportunity to turn it into a positive, and to address situations that are concerning to your consumers or your fans, whatever the situation is, and that you can turn this into something where, I feel better about this. I feel better about how Poles is handling this. I like his candor, and that he admitted some of that stuff was true. Whatever it is, how they handle this, this can turn out to be something good if he avoids the media, if he gives inauthentic answers. If he does meet the media, then that's going to be more destructive than anything else. I hope he handles it well.
He's been scrolling social media and seeing all of this talk. I wonder how he's feeling, Aldo. It's like,
I hope he's blocked me by now.
He's like sitting at home. What are people saying about me?
And I I hear what Cliff is saying. This is the most negative show that Aldo's ever done, and so forth. I just want people to know that here in the bar room, we're always going to be fans of the team, but critics of the people running the team. That's the way it should be. This is
checks and balances, man.
Exactly. We cannot trust the team blindly. We got to verify. And maybe all this is for naught. And we just spent 2 hours talking about bullshit, and the Bears are going to go 17-0. But hey,
and if that's the case, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be mad. I'd be happy about that. See, that's my thing. Like we can have a discussion, we can have conversation, and I have conversation with people all day, every day, about Chicago, about the Bears, and things like that. And at the end of the day, it's not about being negative. I don't want to be negative. That's not what I'm doing. But right. what I am doing is telling the truth. I want to be honest. When you read the report, man, it's a lot of negativity in the report. Yeah. So of course we got to address the negativity at some point. But at the same time, we have to look at it from both lenses, right? Yeah. You got to look at it from both lenses, because it's one side being told. It's a bunch of anonymous sources. We don't know what to believe, but you know what? A lot of this is close to what the Bears franchise have been doing for years, decades. You know what I mean? And on and on and on. So we want change in that regard, right? We want change in that regard. We got to be positive. Like I said, there's certain things that's in this report that I don't agree with. I don't care what Caleb does. I don't care how he dresses. I don't care if he paints his fingernails. Sure, I'll be the first one to tell you that it will get old really quick if he doesn't play well, right? It will get very old. The shenanigans is what there would start to be at that point, right? Painting your nails would be shenanigans at this point, because I don't want to see that. I want to see you win football games. So until that situation is happening, I don't care what he does. It doesn't matter to me, right? There are some people in this fan base, in wherever, that don't like certain things about Caleb Williams, right? And there's the question of if he's bisexual, if he's homosexual, whatever. Man, hey, who that man gets with in his private hours of the night or day or whenever, that's his business. I don't care. I don't care.
I thought he has a long-time girlfriend, though.
He does. Yeah. But a lot of people say that's fake.
A cover, right?
Yeah, cover.
Yeah, it to me, and it does. Some of the comments on there when football coaches are saying he's not an alpha male, that to me can be interpreted as he's not heterosexual. And maybe I'm totally off, but I'm not saying that's the fact. I'm saying it can be interpreted that way. And we all know the history of race in this country and in sports, where black people, black athletes were not allowed to equally compete for the quarterback position because there was this misperception that they weren't smart enough and so forth. And that, of course, has been ridiculed. But there are still some people in the old guard who feel that way and take shots. They don't understand. All right, so Caleb might be, disinterested in meetings, but guess what? I can name 500 other white quarterbacks who had the same issue. And so don't think that this is a black issue. This is just an issue in humanity. Some people have it, some people don't, Yeah. So, but there was a feeling, and I told Danikin this before we went on the air, there was this feeling that, a little bit, that the people complaining had their own kind of agenda, and their feelings towards stuff. So I don't know. So there you go. I started a few comments. I want to share them with you. Cliff Victoria saying, I'm not buying into the last minute before game time revelations. The timing shows motivations from the authors. We addressed this, Cliff. I don't know how doing it on a Friday night, the news dump, I don't know how that's going to help him. It would have been better to do it during the middle of the week. And now, if you're saying Tyler Dunn is in cahoots with somebody and wants the Bears to lose because he's secretly working for the Packers or something like that, I don't think you're saying this, Cliff, but I would say stop drinking that tea, bro.
and shout out to I'm looking at the chat there, Skeletor, bro. Like no one's saying Caleb's gay. I don't know what he does in his private quarters of his house or whatever. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm going to say that one more time. I don't care. I don't know. I don't care. At the end of the day, I just want him to go out there and play football. I want him to be invested in the team. I want him to pay attention to the game, and that's what I want. I want him to be Brady-esque. I want him to be like Peyton Manning, like some of these greats that he has the ability, he has the talent to be, but you have to also have the desire, the work ethic, and the knowledge of the game to do so. So by doing that, by following the instructions of the coaching staff, by developing your game, working on this, that, and the third, that's how he gets there. I can care less if how, and all of that other stuff doesn't matter to me. It's a whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Just go out there and play football, man. That's it.
Yeah. I can honestly say, Skeletor, maybe you were referring to some comments in the chat, but if you're referring that to any of the three of us here, I respectfully don't think that you're at all right making an accusation or suspecting that. I don't care either. I actually sent this to a different thing because I wanted to pull up this soundbite. This is Danikin. You probably don't know Dan Aguirre, but he was one of the co-founders of this show, and he's famous for saying this.
I would be willing to suck Aaron Rodgers' dick.
For a championship, Dan Aguirre would be willing to suck Aaron Rodgers' dick. Me personally, no. I suspect that I wouldn't like the taste of dick, but Dan Aguirre, diehard Bears fan, he would do whatever is necessary. I'm close to Dan, but I wouldn't go quite that far.
The second part of the story is more curious for me, because I wonder if in Ryan Poles' mind there was no other pick other than Caleb Williams. You know what I'm saying? Because if he had not picked Caleb Williams and perhaps picked one of the other quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams went on to, say another team and had an amazing career, it was the next Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. He would have lost his job or such.
Right.
But if he had done his due diligence, he might have said, "Hey, there's some background noise surrounding Caleb Williams, not unlike other top quarterback draft picks."
So that's the question, Tooch.
Yeah.
Was Caleb? No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let me just finish, because the next thing I'll say, I'll probably bring it around full circle for you, because if he had done his due diligence on Jaden Daniels, he would have known that he was also a good kid. Mm-hmm. First one in the building at LSU, last one to leave the building, film junkie, playbook junkie, super athletic, also a Heisman Trophy winner. He would have said, "Hey, maybe Caleb isn't," and that's what good GMs do. You don't pigeon yourself into a one pick and that's it, tunnel vision. You have to look at all of them, and throwing them up there, all the worst plays on the screen, and then putting Caleb Williams all of his best plays, if that is what happened. That's malpractice, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Career malpractice, because it's not making it any easier for Ryan Poles that Jaden Daniels is having a very good start to his NFL career. Went to the NFC Championship last year, one game away from the Super Bowl as a rookie. Yes, he went into a different situation. Yes, Poles oversaw the rebuild, and we're giving Poles a lot of credit for the trade with the Panthers, and we're giving him a lot of credit for the rebuild. But with all due respect, we could also knock him for neglecting the offensive line, being a former offensive lineman himself, neglecting the trenches, which is all of us have been saying here, bar flies, barroom personnel. The most important thing we need to do is fortify the offensive line, fortify the defensive line, and go from there instead of picking skill position players with our top picks. But the thing is good GMs do their due diligence and check all of them, and you have to be willing to make the unpopular decision.
You got to debate every single player, and those people in the room. And this article alleges that scouts were afraid to speak up because they got the sense, according to some, that Poles would hold it against you if you disagreed with where he was heading on an opinion, and that he would, he wouldn't do anything malicious, but he would do things like speed through the tape, speed through the good parts of Drake May's throwing and so forth, and really rewind when he would throw a bad pass. And some of the scouts in the room would laugh, and some of the scouts in the room were saying, this is bullshit. And some of the people who contributed to the article anonymously also said things like, he said, Poe said, if I don't draft Caleb Williams, the media will crucify me. And the quote then was from this former Bears person, if that's true, what the fuck is going on? You're letting the media make the draft picks for you? You're not scouting these players like they should be? Now, that's an
He's not a real GM, Aldo. He's not a real GM.
I hope, though, it's not true. I hope, though, that it's not true. But when we look at the fact that Trapillo couldn't couldn't win the left tackle job.
Mishandled the left tackle.
He drafted Velus Jones, Kareem Amagaja. You're wondering, oh my
Tyler
God,
Scott,
could this be true? Oh no.
Nate Davis. Yeah,
Nate Davis. Dan Wiederer reported on that last year, that people in the building were telling Ryan Poles, don't sign this guy because he's trouble. And yet he, for some reason, just like he had with Ryan Bates, he had this thing about Nate Davis that he really liked, and he signed him, and it ended up being one of his worst free agent signings. So he hasn't hit 1,000, and no GM does, but some of his misses has been really embarrassingly bad.
Steven Zimmerman said that GM hit rates around 25%. Was it 25? Around 20 to 25%, like the average GM, which is where Ryan Poles is. But for an organization with this much dysfunction, although we probably need 50%.
we need 50%. It's not going to happen. No. See, that's the thing. Okay, so I have a little bit of a different opinion when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft, right? And we spoke about this briefly before when it comes to the draft. In the first round, first round talent, everybody's like, why hasn't he drafted a Pro Bowler? Why hasn't he drafted a Pro Bowler? Okay, so the jury's still out. You know what I mean? I look at Caleb Williams. I think he can be a Pro Bowler. Rome can be a Pro Bowler. Darnell Wright can be a Pro Bowler. Colston Loveland will go to a Pro Bowl at some point in his career, right? In the first round, it's like 30% hit rate on a player actually making the Pro Bowl, not multiple times, one time, just once. It's like a 30% hit rate in the first round, and the second round it dwindles, third round it dwindles further, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, right? So we're holding him to this standard in many ways that I don't agree with. And then when it comes to free agency, they're freaking free agents for a reason, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You're not getting.
Exactly.
Nate Davis is probably the best free agent, even though people said don't sign him. He was probably the best available guard at the time. Was he not?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But again, you have to do.
And he was, diligence. And you got to do your due diligence. But he was a Pro Bowler too, right? Before he came to Chicago, he was a Pro Bowler. Right, so you look at the situation. He's a free agent for a reason. We don't know the all details behind it, blah blah blah. But he's a free agent for a reason. Tackles, they never come available in free agent like that. Not guys in their prime. And Nate Davis, when he came here, was 26, 27 years old. You know what I mean? So you figure, okay, let's take a chance on it. Yeah. Chase Claypool, I don't care about giving a fourth round pick away. If you give a fourth round pick away for Chase Claypool, does it hurt you? It was a second round pick? Second round pick. That's terrible.
It was actually really a first round pick.
That's terrible.
It was like pick 32 or 32.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible.
But it was a second round pick, though. But
Who did he give a? He gave a fourth for somebody else that people were complaining about, right? Who was that?
Was it Keenan Allen? No, Keenan Allen was a free agent.
A fourth round. We gave a fourth round pick for Keenan Allen for 1 year.
Okay. Yes.
1 year. Yeah.
1 year. I complained about that because I thought those resources would have been better put towards an offensive lineman, signing an offensive lineman
to move up or something like that. You can move up with those. But if you draft how many fourth round draft picks are going to pan out to be something special in the NFL? It's not that many. Yeah, it's very rare. A fifth round pick is very rare. So that's what I mean by that. Yeah. But yeah, the Chase Claypool thing, hey, he swung and missed. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Aldo, with the Chase Claypool thing, to me, he was swinging, he was acting like he was doing something, but he wasn't really trying to. He wasn't questions too. Yeah, but he wasn't putting full resources into building the team at that point. He was making it look like, oh yeah, let me take a swing here, knowing good and well that it really wasn't going to work out like that.
Mm-hmm. With Claypool, there was also character questions too. He didn't work hard enough. Had a bad attitude when he wasn't getting plays called for him or whatever, getting the ball.
Didn't he want to be a model or something like that too?
Yeah. And then. Yeah, and then what? Did we get him? We got him before the season started, or
no?
Right before.
It was during the
season. Okay, during the season.
Because his first game was against the Dolphins, that tremendous game that Justin Fields had, but we still lost real close. And Claypool didn't play that poorly in that first game. I was there with Mr. Shorty and some other people. We had a ton of fun, but after that first game, it's like Claypool gave up on trying to be a good player, and it's too bad that
I was against the trade.
You were. I
was. I said, wait, a second round pick for this guy,
Yes, exactly. And I said the same. I said the same thing. I love the kid coming out of Notre Dame. He was a special teams gunner at Notre Dame that played at a very high level, and I thought the Bears would use him that way, but they didn't. And I love the fact that he was basically had a tight end type body, but could run like a 4.4. And at the wide receiver position, he had all the makings. Unfortunately, like so many, he just didn't have it up here. He didn't have the love of the game,
That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. That's the caveat, right? That's the thing that we don't understand, that we can't see. But they're Ryan Poles should know that. Ryan Poles, he's got the resources. You and I don't. Although we don't know that, right? We just hear things, right? But he has the resources to really find out the goods on a guy. And somebody like Chase Claypool, I remember when the trade happened, and at the time I said, I don't care, let's do it. You know what I mean? Because I was thinking anything was better than Demir Bird that we were throwing to. Anything was better than Byron Pringle. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was thinking. And I said, okay, bring Chase Claypool in, because I looked at the scouting combine.
Yeah,
exactly. Where's he at now, right? And the scouting combine, he was the only guy in the history of the NFL that put up the same combine stats as Calvin Johnson. So I said, okay, the talent, the body type is there, the speed is there. Does he have it between the ears? And obviously he didn't.
Yeah, unfortunately. I saw him, real quick story. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I was down at the Senior Bowl, and he was chosen to be part of the press conferences. So I went over there with my camera, and I asked him, a lot of people are thinking of you better suited for the tight end position. He looked at me like he was going to kick my ass, and he said, who? And I go, hey, it's just stuff in the media that's being bounced around. What are your thoughts about it? He goes, I'm a wide receiver. And then he looked away from me, waiting for the next question. And I thought to myself, I love this guy. He knows what he wants to be. He's not going to take any shit about being a tight end. I fell in love with him. I wanted the Bears to grab him, but maybe he wasn't such a cool guy after all. I don't know.
I don't know what happened, man. It's crazy.
He's a phenomenal talent, and I wish, and I know that Justin to this day still speaks highly of him, calls him his brother and stuff, but something went wrong there. And all right, let's go another 10, 15 minutes. I want to address some of the questions here. Tooch, you wrote earlier, the big worry is that Poles has final say over the roster and not Ben Johnson. Actually, Tooch, that is absolutely correct. It was confirmed to us by Greg Gabriel that Poles contractually has the final say over the roster. And my hope is that he is collaborating with Ben Johnson in a very productive way, and that they're having good discussions about who should be on the roster or not.
He's showing bad tape to Ben Johnson, Aldo.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want
Ben, this is why you don't have a Scott. Look, it's always showing us the bad tape.
Oh, yeah. There's the Epstein missing two minutes of the final drive. BJ 147. I think we put this on before. Poles has been the problem and is still here, but I think Johnson is running the show. I think we shared that earlier. This was from Zach.
I think that may become the case, though. I don't think it's true right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't even know if Poles is running the show.
Yeah, well, I think he is. And I hate to, take George McCaskey's word for it because he has been caught in lies before. But I hope that they're letting the football people make football decisions. Zach says, this is true. McCaskey isn't a business guy, tech, or oil. He fills his pockets solely because of football, right? Crazy. He cops out as just a fan. Does that bother you, Danikin, that he says he's just a fan?
If he's just a fan, if that's what it is, then step aside and make sure to stay out of the way.
If he's just a fan, he shouldn't be an owner of a football team.
Get out of here. Or at least step out of the way and just get out of the way and let everybody else make the decisions that need to be made. All of this stuff that they did with the bringing people in and stuff like that, it's nonsense, man. It's nonsense. Even when Poles is hired. And then you give him, here's 3 guys, pick one.
Yeah.
And somehow those were high on his list too. Come on. It's a circus at that point, in my opinion.
Is it possible,
dysfunction.
Although, it begs the question at least, but is it possible that Kevin Warren was brought in a year later after Poles was hired to kind of tame the sort of echo chamber bad GMing of Ryan Poles, to sort of get it in line,
Well, look at the press conference, right? Remember the press conference last year when they sat up there together and it seemed like Warren was doing all the talking?
Yeah.
What was everybody saying then?
Right.
Everybody was like, "Oh, he's in charge."
It looked
like Ryan Poles got a spanking and was just sitting there
I said
he's
that
in the
Bears
principal's
State of
office,
Affairs.
Right?
He's like, they brought him in there as wearing a sweatsuit or something, right? He's wearing sweats. He's like, I was supposed to wear a suit. What the hell is this? He looked like a kid that was scolded before the press conference. I said it in Bears State of Affairs.
Yes, that was a key moment in the history of this current era. And they did try to correct that. The next press conference, Warren didn't
damage
even
control.
talk. Yes. And I hope that they got into a room, because I've done this too with my bosses. When they took control of a meeting that I was supposed to be in charge of, I would say to my bosses, you put me in control of the meeting and then you're doing all the talking. What does that make me? Some kind of flunky? I'm just there because, I'm the fucking Puerto Rican on the team? No, if you're going to put me in charge of a meeting, put me in charge of a meeting. And hopefully Post said that to Warren. I'm the GM. I make all player personnel decisions. And if you don't like it, then here's my contract and read it, because it says it right there. So I don't know. I don't know. Hey, hell, again, I got to go back. We all love the team, but it's okay for us to question what the fuck is going on. Why? Because look at the record over the last 10, 20 years. It's not good, fellas. It's not good.
There's been plenty of stories of dysfunction over the past, I don't know, since Lovie Smith left.
Yeah.
The dysfunction is all over the place, whether it's, overt or covert, in the media or other figures around the team. It's been there. The article that Tyler Dunn wrote tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. That's a good way of putting it.
That's what I said. That's what we said earlier. It lines up with what we've been dealing with for years now.
It tracks. Mm-hmm. I know Cliff is saying we shouldn't be just believing it. Well, we're not just believing it, but it does track.
Yes, exactly. You have to, as you have to step away from your passion for the team and your love for the team and look at it objectively. A lot of that stuff in there is probably true, and yes, it is presented. It was given to this reporter by angry, pissed off people, but maybe their anger and pissed off attitude is justified because they saw shit, heard shit that wasn't cool, and they ended up losing their jobs as a result of it. So,
and Aldo, you said we love this team no matter what, we do. We care so much that we want them to not make these mistakes, not be dysfunctional. So we call it out when we see it because we want them to change course, and build the championship. I mean, the hiring Ben Johnson and Ben Johnson hiring all of the staff, it's a step in the right direction. No question. Mm-hmm. But the Caleb Williams talk, is he talented? Yes. Can Ben Johnson get the most out of him? Well, that's the whole question of this season. He's by himself. I've always put the picture up there of Caleb Williams against the wall, His back is up against it.
That is the key question behind what is the meaning of life. I have no idea what the meaning of life is. Anyways, guys, we've gone an hour and a half. I think this is a good time to pull the plug. We could talk all night about this.
Chargers won down in Sao Paulo. And Aldo, man, I think I saw your future wife down there in the halftime show.
Oh, my gosh. I tweeted that out immediately.
Oh, my goodness.
Said, this halftime show
was she hot
is not nearly as good
Carol
as
G.
the
I
game.
never heard of her. Spicy Colombian senorita.
My wife is asleep right now, so I'm going to be looking for pictures of her, and I'm going to get to work.
Danikin, did you see part of that halftime show?
I saw a little bit of it. Yeah.
Ooh, swing.
You guys ever been to Brazil?
No, I haven't.
I want to go now.
Yes. Brazil is a country.
South American women. Oh man.
Oh yes. It has. There's something about the sun and how it hits these South American women and develops their bodies into.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Their personalities, their voices. It's
works of art.
Sexy.
Works
all
of
around.
Art.
All around sexy.
Exactly. If there are any Brazilian women out there listening to this, please come on the show next Wednesday. Bare their souls. And,
DMs are open.
Yes, do not bother to dress. All right.
Clothing option.
By the way, my buddy Keith Lutz writes, finishing with the weekly NFL newsletter. I sent the link via Twitter direct message. I'll share it with everybody online. Yep. Keith is a big supporter of the Barroom Network, and he's also doing some writing. And so I want to make sure we get some eyes on the stuff that he's writing about because it's very, very good. Nice. Hey, Danikin, any final words before we pull the plug?
Man. The Bears, with all this nonsense that's going on with the report and everything like that, the Bears are still going to win in Minnesota. I mean, in Soldier Field.
Man,
we're still going to get the W. Caleb's going to go out there. He's going to ball out, and it's all going to be a forgotten situation.
Man, Tyler Dunn sure added a lot of background noise for the guys, didn't he?
He sure did.
Man, hopefully they can focus on Monday night, but hopefully it blows over before then,
This is a great challenge for Caleb. He's going to come out and say on Monday night after the game is done and the Bears have the W, he's going to come out in his press conference and he's going to just tell people, I will not be fucked with. I am going to overcome my mistakes and the bullshit that's being said out there about me. I'm going to overcome them and lead this team to victory. That's what I'm hoping and praying for, man.
That's what you got to do.
I mean, in the NFL, he might get the most negative press of anybody in the NFL. I mean, maybe we're biased because we're in Chicago and that's all we see. But I mean, maybe Jalen Carter, but the negative. the negative press around Caleb. It's like it's definitely not fair.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts. Not that he gets negative comments, but he gets
Jalen Carter.
But I was saying Jalen Hurts doesn't get enough love and praise for what he's accomplished at the quarterback position. People keep looking at the passing numbers, but look at how effective he runs that because of his mobility, his escapability, his rushing touchdowns, and blah, blah, blah. The guy is a tier 1 quarterback, and anyone that leaves him off of
it was phenomenal last night.
Is stuck on Dan Marino days about throwing for 4,000 yards, 5,000 yards, whatever it is.
Aldo, one last thing before we get out of here.
Okay.
Locking up Tyson Bagent. Maybe if we looking back in hindsight's 2020, Ben Johnson was a big advocate for locking this kid up. In case the wheels come off, Aldo. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
I would not at all be surprised in a meeting between Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson said, "You know what? The honest truth is that Tyson is the better student. He's really, really into the playbook and studying, and not as much as Caleb. But I understand Caleb is the better athlete. Caleb has the better tools, and we have to give him a chance to develop. But please sign Tyson just in case this thing doesn't work with Caleb." I wouldn't be surprised if that.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going down. It affects Ben Johnson's record too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, look at Ryan Poles' record. How's he doing the job?
And that's what I think, Tooch. That's what you mentioned. What was it last Wednesday when you said, is it a chance that what I mean? You got to think about it. Ben Johnson, I don't want to be tied to if this thing starts rolling downhill, we need to make a change because my record's not going to be affected. I'm not going to walk away from this situation and be begging for a job because of one player that I have to just put faith in for whatever reason.
They signed him to always keep Caleb looking over his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It's possibly true.
Look at how he works, man. This is what you have to do. When Case Keenum comes in to Caleb, this is what you have to do to be a quarterback. To be successful in the league.
All right, guys. Loved spending time with you. Thanks, Danikin.
500 people watching.
Look at that.
This was just a spot. This is like what do you call that? What do you call those spontaneous flash mob for a flash mob show?
This is a flash podcast. Yeah,
there's those flash mob. The only thing we're missing is Mrs. Zim Zimmerman.
Yes, Brittany, where are you? All right, Danikin, when's the next Three Kings show coming out?
We'll be doing one at the beginning of next week, probably on Tuesday.
Excellent.
We're aiming for. Yep.
Right after the game. So that'll be interesting. Make sure you are subscribed to the Three Kings podcast. And the best way to learn all that information, how to subscribe to their channel, is to follow Danikin on X, and that's at Danikin_DG3. That's also your Instagram account, right, Danikin?
I don't have Instagram, but that is TikTok account.
TikTok is what I meant. Okay, there you go. Yep. And then Tooch, Sunday morning, you got double duty with Barfly Tailgate and Fantasy Football Goon.
Yep.
Nice.
Give me who is going to be the top running back this weekend in fantasy, Tooch? I'm putting you to the test right now.
Man.
Let's see how good he is, Danikin. He's got to check his notes.
Man,
he's logging on to ESPN.
Yeah, I haven't really done my full research, man.
That's all right. I know you'll be prepared on Sunday. But here's the answer. I'll give it to you right now. It's DeAndre Swift. He will score 43 fantasy football points because of his 3 touchdowns and 120
knowing the Bears,
yards.
it's going to be Aaron Jones.
Right?
Lord.
Kills us.
Yes, he does.
And so does Adam Thielen. They always kill us.
Yes, that is so true.
The history of beating us.
But I wish I had a lightning sound effect right now to strike you down, Tooch, for even suggesting.
I gotta agree against that soft New England run defense. Could be Ashton Jetty.
Yes, I hope that game is televised in Chicago. If not, I'll see it on parts of it on Red Zone. But I want to see how Genty looks in his first game with the
Genty
Raiders
versus Travion Henderson, man. It could be either one of those guys.
Yeah, indeed. How did Hampton do today? Anybody know?
It was all right. It was all right.
Not too good.
I mean, he did all right. I mean, Kansas City's a tough defense. I mean, Chris Jones does it all out there, Danikin. That guy he's amazing. I mean, I remember Baralissimo saying he wanted to have drafted Chris Jones in the first round. That's what he said after that draft. He said, if I was the Bears, I would take Chris Jones in the first round. He's absolutely right. The guy's a Hall of Famer.
He's a monster.
Yep.
He's a monster out there. He does it all. Like you said, he can get after a quarterback. He can stop the run. He can do everything.
Hampton did good once. Chris Jones left for a series, I think, and they were able to run the ball. He came back in, stuffed the run again. I think rushed the passer, too. That guy's incredible.
Yep.
All right, I want to tell everybody watching, all the barflies out there, next week is going to be so good here at the bar room. It's going to start Monday morning with Greg Gabriel. Of course, everything really starts on Sunday morning with the Barfly Tailgate Show. Don't want to miss what Tooch and his fellow tailgaters are going to talk about regarding the game. And then there's a fantasy football goon show. And then on Monday, Greg and I will talk Bears. He's really itching to get on and start talking about
Tyler Dunn on Sunday again. No.
Yes.
I had to get my thoughts out tonight, though. Thanks for. I figured I would pop backstage and see if you wanted me to come on.
Well, I'm glad you did. You did. And so Greg has thoughts about Tyler Dunn, who he's friends with and respects, but he's going to have to share some thoughts on Monday about that. And then Greg and I will be back on Tuesday. We could. I mean, Tyler's been on the bar room before, so I could reach out to him. And he follows my account.
Talk about breaking the internet or breaking Bears Twitter.
Well, he was already on CHGO today, so it wouldn't be like we were the first to get him.
I didn't know that. I gotta see that one.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that earlier. I haven't seen it, but nonetheless, next week we're loaded with programming, and of course, Bear Their Souls with Danikin, Tooch, and Zim on me on Wednesday night. It's going to be a hoot, no matter what happens with the Chicago Bears Monday night, and I anticipate they're going to win big. I've already predicted 38-13.
I have to work.
Well, no, you said 9 the other day.
Yeah, that's right. It was
9. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
I'm going to miss the game on Monday.
You are?
I have to work. I'm closing out People Magazine.
Oh man,
I don't know. I gotta try and rig something up where I can have the game going in the background or something. I don't know.
Fuck your job. Fuck milk money.
I know, right?
For the kids. All right. Love all you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Over 500 people across all 3 platforms. I'm sure a few more people will watch on demand, and we appreciate every one of you. For Danikin, for Tooch, and for Tyler Dunn. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.